Let's look into, we're gonna back up a little bit, not very far, just back to the first verse we talked about there last Wednesday evening, or later on. Let's look at Matthew 13:44. It's amazing how the weather gets definitely cold, and kind of warms up and cold warm, and then the second.
Sniffles start. They were froze up outside. Now they're thawing out.
It was definitely that way all week. You walk outside and then your nose froze. So does somebody want to read that, please?
Again, the kingdom of heaven is like unto treasure hid in a field, the which when a man hath found, he hideth, and the joy thereof goeth and selleth all that he hath, and buyeth that field.
You know, as I was studying this morning, I thought to myself, how is that something he wasn't looking for? If you think about it, if you just happen to be out walking through the timber out across the ground and you find something, it started to make sense a little bit to me. At that time, did they have banks? You think about how this was written in the time frame. Did they have safes and things where you lock that stuff in? So where would you put stuff? In a box in the ground? In the bottom of the house? Would you have it under the floor? You know, you didn't have the conventional, like a lockbox or a gun safe per se. That's where I put all my stuff. Especially if the wife says no. You don't put that in there. Here it goes. So at that time they didn't have it. So looking at this parable, it's more of a stumble upon or find upon thing. So as we study, we kind of keep that in the back of your head, you know, this is something we just kind of stumble upon. All right. What did the guy do for it?
Sacrificed everything else.
He gave everything else for it after he found it, right? How do we liken that to the church today?
Christ sacrificed everything.
He sacrificed everything. What should we do?
Sacrifice.
Be willing to give up something that we have for it, right? It shouldn't be something we just get more or less just handed to us. A lot of people today think, you know, you show up on Sunday morning, I walk through that door, I know I'm going to sit down in the back pew, and I don't have to do anything, especially if I show up late. Kathy didn't even pick that up. I'm kind of.
Just being ornery.
Yeah, is that one smart comment this morning I had? She's usually pretty sharp on that kind of thing.
Usually.
She's up. She might come up and slap her.
I'm just seeing how weight she is. We kind of filling out the waters. But we want to come in, we want to sit down. We want to hear something preached on, and we want to go home and leave. And at the end of the day, is that all we have to do? That shouldn't be all we have to do, is it? We should have to give up something for it. It shouldn't be something we just get, or we should feel that we just get it for just, you know, I was good enough to grace you with my presence. This should be good enough. You know, you get people who kind of act that way, but, you know, you should be fortunate that I'm here just to either be with you, to talk to you, do whatever. And they don't stop and take the time to think that, you know, maybe I should be doing more, or at least try to be capable of helping in some form. And all it's hard. Let's look at Matthew 19:21. We'll get a demonstration of kind of what we're talking about here.
"21, you said?
Yeah.
Jesus said to him, if you want to be perfect, go sell what you have and give to the poor, and you will have treasure in heaven, and come follow me."
All right. So we're going to back up. We got an idea of what he was told there, right? We're going to back up to verse 16. Now behold, one came and said to him, "Good teacher, what good thing shall I do that I may have eternal life?" We're going to stop there for just a second. What did he say right there?
He just thought he could do one little thing and.
It's amazing how people, and you know, from the time the Bible was written until today, how people change. You know, if I can do one thing and I get to heaven, You know, what one thing can I do? What can I do that I don't have to basically work for?
Is that the original once saved, always saved doctrine?
And it kind of looks that way, don't do what one thing can I do, and then I'm gonna be good the rest of my life. And you see that today. You see how many people either are in this church or show up part-time or don't put their heart into it. I guess a lot of things, how many things do we do today where we go out and we show up every day? How many of us go, you know, we go to work every day, right? Well, some of us don't. I mean, I can say I go to work, I haven't for years.
You show up.
I show up. But some days you go, hi. But, you know, go run an engine, go do something like that. But we look at something as worldly or earthly, and we're gonna show up for it. Something we wanna do, whether it's fishing, hunting, four-wheeling, anything that we ourselves want to do we show up for that?
Sure.
You know, we give our all for that, right?
Sporting event.
Sporting events, anything of that sort, anything that each one of us is different, each one of us has got our likes and our dislikes. If it's something we like, do we pay money to do that?
Sure.
So in that front, we're willing to do whatever. Now, do we do that when it comes time for church services or our time for that?
Some people do. Yeah,
Some people do.
but not enough.
Well, and some people think that if they're on vacation, they're on vacation from the Lord.
Mhm.
They don't, you know, it's like, oh, good, I'm gone, I don't have to go to church. Well, you don't have to go to church, you want to go to church.
There is a good example of you want to do it.
Like Barb said, that's interesting. I've always thought about, because when I was younger, I always remembered during the holidays, the attendance numbers, all average, always go down. And so I always thought, there's some congregation somewhere that every Christmas or Thanksgiving, their numbers are huge. But I've never found it,
Yeah.
you know, because it doesn't happen. So I'm out of town, nobody will know. So that's where I go, God knows.
Yeah. Well, we're fortunate, you know, when we get people out of college coming back, our numbers go the other direction, so we actually. I kind of throw that out there a little bit. No, you see that, you know, and I've seen the same thing, when I go to Arizona in the summertime, I go down to my grandparents, and then I go down to the church there in Mesa. And then summertime attendance is down, and the wintertime attendance, when
Oh,
the
yeah.
retired people show up,
Sure.
because it's warm, the suburbs, the attendance goes way up. But as far as the ones, you know, it's kind of entertaining to think about. I'm gonna read verse 17 here. So he said to him, and we'll be in Matthew 19:26 or 17, 19:17. So he said to him, why do you call me good? No one is good but one, that is God. But if you want to enter into life, keep the commandments. And he said to him, which ones? Jesus said, you shall not murder, you shall not commit adultery, you shall not steal, you shall not bear false, you shall not bear false witness, honor your father and your mother, and you shall love your neighbor as yourself. The young man said to him, all these things I have kept from my youth, what do I still lack? And then he hit him with what Barb read, was to give up what he had. How many of us today won't give up what we have? You know, generally, we're like pulling teeth, you know. Cold day like today, you know, how many of us want to give up a cab tractor versus going back to the cabbage tractor? Now, the other day when I got stuck, the cabbage tractor was the only one that would start, so therefore I was out on the cabbage tractor. Not liking life too much, but it wasn't definitely cold, so. And it was my whole other stuff. But, you know, we don't like to give up our nice warm homes, do we? I mean, you don't have to really work at keeping the house hot like you used to. You used to have to go cut wood and things like this to keep the house heated. And today you've either got natural gas, propane. Some people have got firewood. I like it better. It actually gives a better heat. Or you've got air to air. They're making all kinds of different things to make heat. So you don't have to build a fire as they would have at this time to stay warm. But yeah, most of us don't really like to give up things. And it was hard for him to give up the things that he had to follow Christ, and we see here what happened. All right? Let's look at Matthew 25:9.
But the wise answered, saying, no less there shall not be enough for us and you, but go rather to those who sell it and buy for yourselves.
Got Speedy back there, read it before I even got there. Here we're seeing that it's the parable of the wise and foolish virgins. And they came with their oil in their lamps, because they had to have that at that time. The ones that came prepared with everything they needed. Did the ones that have want to give up on their chance by giving it to those that didn't? Do we want to give up what we have to follow after those that don't have? We shouldn't, right? We shouldn't want to give up the things. I'm not gonna say give up things that we have, like helping others, doing things like that, but like salvation aspect of things. You know, give up our faith just to follow after somebody else. And that's how I'm gonna view it this morning, is the fact that we don't want to give up Christ, we don't want to give up God and follow back after the world.
We shouldn't allow someone else to work at us long enough that they destroy our faith either.
Mm-hmm.
We have to be careful because they can pull us down if we're not careful.
When you there, did somebody speak? Is that going in my head?
A lot of people saying yes.
Yes, a lot of people do. But we see a lot of people out in the world that we associate with, that we have to work with, and old friends, a lot of times like school friends and things like this, that have pull with you. And, you know, somebody you've been around your whole life. They've got the capacity where you put your trust in them also to make you think or pull you away. And and in times like that, you need to stop and think, okay, now, what I'm doing, is it right or wrong? You know, do I need to stop and evaluate where I'm at? And that's something we should have, you know, generally pay attention to. All right. In Matthew 13:44, what is the Kingdom Salvation Church? What's it compared to?
Treasure.
Treasure. Something we don't want to give up or don't want to waste. You know, I've got a wife, she looks at me every time I go buy another piece of farm equipment like I'm wasting money, which she may be right or she may be wrong. But she's not wanting to give it up. I'm willing to give it up to improve on what I've got. And it's all in perspective. It's how you look at it a lot of times. But should we give up the things we have for nothing? No. All right. What?
The principle here, what he's talking about is an investment.
Mhm.
But the thing is, for someone to invest, they have to see the value in it. And so many people don't see the value in the church, or the value in eternity, and so they're not willing to invest in it. You know, if I could promise you a return, people say once they're convinced of it, they'll do whatever it takes to get that return in most cases. And so once we realize the return of our investment, then we ought to be willing to, you know, give up what we've got for something more than that, you know. I heard the one preacher I talked about sometimes, I saw that one late night talking about send in your contribution so you get a 10-fold return every time. I promise it'll happen this week, you know, all that kind of stuff. People send in because they believe in that craziness, you know. The blessings, you know, we'll receive blessings here, but the greatest blessing we'll receive after we die, you know.
You know, there's so many times a new Christian seems to have that zeal, that desire, but then over time, then they just slide back.
You see that a lot of people. Well, how can I describe this in more of a, somebody buys a brand new car, what do they do with it? They kicked the wife out of the house, they put that thing in the house, and it's nice and clean and shiny, you know, no scratches, no dings and dents. 20 years later, how's it treated? It's like it being in the shed, you know?
Yeah, but you have to learn how to keep that zeal, or else it's gonna happen to every single one of us.
But the
Exactly.
question is it still a treasure?
Yeah.
You know, do we look at it as still a treasure? You know, cars wear out, they wear down, you know, but we're never gonna find anything better than the church and
Exactly.
the blessings in the church. And so we got to remember that.
I think that's what Kathy's at, the fact that you gotta remember what you have.
But how do you convince, like a new Christian, that, you know, it's something that, you know, you have for a month and, you know, they have to keep nursing it, they keep, you know.
Oh, basically keep the fire lit or keep that attitude, the fire lit.
It's easy to stand up there and tell people not to get involved with the world and all this stuff. Well, these people are just coming out of the world. You know, I don't know,
You think it's hard to tell them and they're not be able to show it?
I just don't know, I guess, how to keep the fire going.
The best,
Unless it's your own desire.
yeah,
The biggest thing is focusing on the priority and what is really a priority. And when you stay in the Word and you're studying the Word and you're focused on spiritual things, it helps to keep that zeal. Because it's easy to get back into it's easy to look at this life and say, well, this is more important right now. I need to take care of that. And then once you realize something else is important, then it's easy to look at the spiritual thing and say it's not as important right now. And so I think the biggest thing for the new convert is, and for us, is that's what we're talking about Sunday nights, is stopping and saying, okay, do I have the priority that I need? And, you know, focusing on God. We've got to do it, because like I said, we often lose the zeal at any point too. Focusing on the spiritual.
I think a lot of the overview of both of these few cards that I've got to go over, what they're viewing is that kind of a mentality to keep that fire, to keep the focus on God. I think when we slip back into the world, when we back up or regress, it's because we've lost our focus on what we need to be focusing on. And when you're new to something, you want to learn all about it. You want to know all about it. So you're going to study, you're going to look into it. Before we do anything, we usually look at it to see if this is, like Caleb said, as far as the investment side of things. You know, we'll dig into it, we'll look and see if this is worth doing, and then we're going to go at it all of our focus is going to be on that. A new Christian, same way. They're going to be in it in the beginning. They're going to be spinning their wheels. They're going to be wanting to go, and they want to go fast. And as long as you keep your focus and keep your drive, it may be more of a grind to get it done. But with study, it'll bring more of it into focus, I guess. You get more of an alignment type mentality and understand where you're at and what you're doing. Yes, there'll be times that, hey, why am I doing this? You know, I'm not getting anywhere. I'm not getting, nobody to talk to me, nobody to work with, and stop and just read the Bible and back up basically before you go back forward.
There's-
Probably made that clear as mud.
The camp song I was thinking about that we sing, the steadfast love of the Lord. It says, steadfast love of the Lord never ceases, and his mercies never come to an end. They're new every morning. Great is your faithfulness. And so like that new car idea, if we realize God's, mercies are new to us every morning, we realize every day a little bit more how great it is. That will help the new excitement Kathy's talking about.
Well, even with study, somebody older, you learn something new, it's like, oh, I hit something hit me different than it had the day before. And now I've got something else to look at and something else to dig into. And then
Yeah, I think I think it applies to even people that's been in for years. Roadblocks get thrown up and, you start falling backwards and, and I know that people in the church are supposed to help, but if they don't know what the situation is, it's a little hard for them to help.
exactly. Oh, it's like me, these little numbers on the back that Eric alluded to when he was doing his study classes, and I see these numbers on the side, it says 2886. Okay, what does this mean? So I go to the back, and I'm like, this is all kinds of confusing. But then I found what I was looking for, like, aha! You know, I'm finally smart enough to run the book the way it's supposed to be used. You know, instead of doing it the hard way, where it was verse by verse, and then back and forth, and around and around, you can actually kind of dig up what you want. And, if somebody will just go through and stop and think and then use something like that, like concordance, so to speak, which is what it is. And it gives you stuff to go over, and it'll actually help you dig back into it deeper. Say on the, you know, as far as where our priority should be. This is kind of what this is speaking on a little bit. And the fact that God's word is our goal and guide to the treasure that we receive later. You know, and as we dig through the Bible, we'll find that was a roadmap per se to where we need to get to.
Part of the problem is our culture with the, you know, in Acts 17, when Paul went to Athens, you know, the people there were excited to hear some new thing. And you know, how many of our treasures are something old and precious? You know, Kathy brought up a new car, you know, we get something new. You know, how often does an iPhone come out? Was it once a year or something, if not more? You know, new, everything. We got it out with the old and with the new. And when we're talking about, you know, the gospel is 2,000 years old, we say, well, how can that be a treasure? And we hear the idea, well, it's outdated. You know, it can't be good anymore. It's outdated. Like everything else in our society, you know, ages out. Well, this has to be the same way, but it's a treasure that it doesn't age out.
Those things are not made to last,
Yeah.
and this is made to last.
Exactly. Well, I mean, nobody gets a printout anymore. Nobody gets an easy guide because Andy's not the greatest on the computer. And printing, I printed mine all out here with a pen and nobody else can read it. It's kind of like being in,
Well, it just
This
seems
is
like
short.
we talk a lot about, don't do this, don't do that, don't do this, don't do that, don't fall back into the world, don't do this, don't put this ahead of church. We need to start, in my opinion, I need to hear more of where I need to be going instead of falling back.
Yeah.
You know, so I know the path that I need to be on to get there.
understand that. Yeah, we need to definitely look at, you know, where am I going and how am I going versus don't do this or don't do that. And, you know, the more joyful.
You can put that in there, but, you know, then include, you know, this is how you need to be going. You know, I guess, I know what I mean, I just can't express it.
Well, I think what you're saying is, well, I'm pretty sure, is the fact that, you know, we can look at the doldrums, we can look at well, God told us not to do this, this, and this, and that's where I stop. If I quit there, what have I told you? It's all negative, right? How many people do we get to pay attention to us if all we are is negative about things? You know, everybody knows at least one person that their life is like, well, I had a flat tire this morning, or something broke, versus, well, this worked this morning and I woke up. You know, you look at every day as something new. Our treasure in heaven should be something new to us. Like Caleb was speaking, you know, you're wanting something to look forward to, and if we look forward to it, we will attain it, as long as it's,
As we know how.
yeah,
You know.
I think that's what I'm trying to get. My wording isn't going any better this morning. All right. Let's look at Matthew 6:19. Someone read that, please.
Do not lay up for yourselves treasures on earth where moth and rust destroy and where thieves break in and steal.
And as Debbie was saying, you know, new stuff today is old tomorrow. By the time I get an iPhone, there's already 2 more iPhones out there newer than mine. I get the old antique, proven. You know, they got the buds out of this thing. This is perfect. I like the old stuff.
That's where they start putting bugs back in.
Yeah, I know. You know what happens. The next thing is it gets an update. So, but how much stock do we put in stuff here versus God? You know, think of the aspect of how we do it. You know, we got savings accounts, you got checking accounts, you got retirement funds, things like this. And that is good here. I'm not gonna say it's bad. And our better one is in heaven, isn't it? You know, we get a lot of descriptions of what hell's like throughout the Bible. Gnashing of teeth, burning fire. Burning fire is the one that gets me pretty good. Because I'm not, and as older I get, I guess I can't say that anymore, because the older I get, the more you don't like the cold weather, because the joints don't work, back doesn't work, nothing likes life. But I don't like 180 degrees either, so, you know, there's that nice 70-degree temperature in the middle that everybody likes. But fire, what does it do when it hits you? It burns, right? So that's something we need to look at. We don't want to lay up things here, because the things we have here will burn up. You know, how do they refine things here? You think about this for just a minute. They dig iron ore out of the ground. They melt it down. Gold the same way. There are several verses that they burn up the chaff, right? Which is just the waste, the weed seed.
1 Corinthians 3.
They get rid of all that. So anything here will be burned up. All right? Somebody read Luke 12:21, please.
So is he that layeth up treasure for himself and is not rich towards God.
Get help by the right page. All right, what are we speaking about there? A few verses ahead of that, what's it say? Or right, like a headline, like Caleb said. Some Bibles have these little headlines like that. So it's a rich fool, right? What does this guy do?
He said, I've got everything, I'm set for life.
Yeah, I'm gonna tear down what I got, build bigger, because I've got I need plenty of room to store this. And if we take that mentality, and that's that, I've got it all, I made it all mentality, and it'd be I've done all this, now I can stop. How many times do you see people today that just stop? You know, we get to a certain point and, hey, I've done it all, you know, I've made my contributions. I'm good, I'm set. You know, I think we all, you know, like to get there, but where is that there? And I'm not even sure you stop when you get there, really. If you kind of read into it there and study it out. You know, heaven, we get there, that's our destination. But is that an end point?
That's the beginning.
That's another beginning, right? So we get there and then we're off again. So to me, every step you take, you're always looking at the end goal. You're never looking at for a stop. And we definitely don't want to stop here, do we? We're just always going forward, always working in that direction. All right. Let's go to Matthew 6:20, somebody.
But lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven where neither moth nor rust destroys, where these do not break and steal.
Okay, what do we understand about that verse? There's several things that we understand about that here.
Things on earth is perishable.
Perishable. What happens to this building if we walk out that door and we don't come back?
It'll deteriorate.
It deteriorates, right? You drive around the countryside, right? Excuse me. Making this morning, bite me back. We drive around the countryside and we see old farmsteads, right? And all the old barns and stuff are falling in from lack of maintenance. What happens if we've got say a nice house out in the countryside and around you is nothing, and you don't have locks on your doors, and you leave. And somebody times you, and figures out your daily routine.
I'll come in and take care of it for you.
They come in and take care of it for you. And that's the kind of things that we have here on earth, right? Either we get rust and decay, or you get the fancy clothes and moths and stuff even, which I don't have any nice fancy clothes. Most of my stuff, as the girls were complaining about last night, smells like diesel fuel just because I got a little bit on my pants yesterday. But I understand the thought, because it doesn't, yeah, it gets kind of old wearing that stuff around.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
We had, a lot of times, I used to think, well, if I don't use it won't ever wear out. Just leave it alone, it won't wear out. But that's not the case at all. These wealthy people that own lots of houses, they have somebody that goes in weekly and does a complete walkthrough and checks things. And they have to constantly have the houses repainted. And even though nobody's walking on the carpets deteriorate, flooring, windows lose their gas, concrete starts cracking, deteriorate, all this kind of stuff. Nobody's living there, but still falling apart, and they constantly have to do maintenance on it because it's just physical.
So what are the treasures that we should lay up in heaven? Besides our love for God and what to worship Him?
Good works, things like that.
What do you say?
The spiritual things, so like good works are good works towards others, God, things like that. Because I was trying to find it, I thought it was in 1 Timothy. It talks about the rich and how they are to lay up their treasures in heaven.
You're on the right track.
Yeah. It's everything that, I can't remember what was that. We're helping others, helping those that didn't have, it's, Eric will probably come up with it. I'll be thinking that he's gonna actually come up with it. Where Christ said, if you help the poor, those that needed to ask things from you and give them something, you're helping Him. If you clothe somebody, you're helping Him. It's our more or less good deeds, the things we go out and we help people with.
Matthew 25.
Matthew 25, chapter 25.
That's what you're talking about, yeah, Matthew 25.
You're looking at 1 Timothy 6.
Yeah.
What do you say, Matthew 25?
Matthew 25
Yeah, we'll look at that real quick.
talks about those that do good unto others, to do the good unto Christ.
Doesn't James 2 talking about that?
Here, 25:45, and it's the answer to everything ahead of that. Then he will answer them saying, should I say to you, as much as you did not, well, I guess this is a bad thing. Should I say to you, as much as you did not do it to one of the least of these, you did not do it to me. And these will go away in everlasting punishment, but righteous in eternal life. And I'm gonna back up here a little bit. I'm just gonna read 31 on. When the Son of Man comes in His glory and all the angels with Him, then He will set Him on the throne of His glory. And all nations will be gathered before Him, and He will separate them one from another, as a shepherd divides his sheep from the gates. And He will set the sheep on the right hand, but the goats on the left. I'm going down here a little bit. 35. For I was hungry, and you gave me For I was hungry, and you gave me food. I was thirsty, and you gave me drink. I was a stranger, and you took me in. I was naked, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you visited me. I was in prison, and you came to me. Then the righteous will answer Him, saying, Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you drink? When did we see you a stranger and take you in, or naked and clothe you? And when did we see you sick or in prison and come to you? And the king will answer and say to them, surely I say to you, inasmuch as you did it to one of the least of these, my brethren, you did it to me. So it's not necessarily something big, it'll be something small. Everything he listed there. The sick, prison, naked, destitute, no food, hungry, things like that, without shelter. It's all the little things. It's not necessarily one big thing, and I think that's what people miss sometimes. Is they're saying, like you said, what do we do for it? it's all the little things. It's showing our compassion for people versus the worldly view of what I can do for myself. We're looking out into the world today and saying, okay, where can we help? What can we help people with to further God's word and to show them that we're not just out for ourselves? See a lot of people today that just want to do it themselves and, they see somebody's like, no big deal. We'll go on, somebody else will help them. Whereas we need to do a little bit of that ourselves and say, hey, I can help these people with this. Each one of us have our own thing that we're capable of doing as good or, maybe we're better at this than somebody else, but we're horrible at doing something else. We just don't have that natural talent for doing things. But we're all capable of helping out in some fashion to make a whole. You don't get a body without hands, feet, head, ears, eyes, nose, and mouth. So each one of us can be an individual piece, and with that, it all goes together. So helping others, that's gonna get us somewhere.
Yeah, doing good works is, a big part of that. And then also having the fruits of the Spirit, Galatians 5:21, also having, when you have all those things, they're adding up treasure. Because the treasure you're talking about is spiritual things. So it's not like it's a physical thing, but it's doing good for others. Love, compassion, having patience, things like that. Those are all building up.
Because the treasures on earth is physical things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's all spiritual things. So it's the attributes that we add to our life. We're adding to our treasure in heaven. And then we add the things mentioned in 2 Peter chapter 1:5-8, those things there too. So it's spiritual things. So it's hard because, we're thinking always physical things, but you can't take away those spiritual things. You can't take away my patience. You can't take away my love, joy, and my desire to do good works for someone else.
I think that's why when they use the crown aspect and they say jewels and things in your crown, it's things that we can understand here in this life, because we understand what gold is, we understand what the jewels and things are, silver, land, we understand all those things. Some of the things, the heavenly things, the spiritual, it's harder to explain or tell you what it is, because it's something we can't physically hold here.
And I don't think anybody's ever explained it like that either, like we have today. They just read that and
Well, cool, we did something right today.
you did something right.
Well, a good way, I didn't read far enough in chapter 6 until said in 1 Timothy, but verse 17, 1 Timothy 6:17 says, command those who are rich in this present age not to be haughty nor trust in certain riches, but in the living God who gives us richly all things to enjoy. Let them do good that they be rich in good works, ready to give, willing to share, storing up for themselves a good foundation for the time to come, that they may lay hold on eternal life.
Some versions say treasure.
I think somewhere I've heard that, maybe it was somebody speaking, or I went to lectureship or something, I heard something like that. But you're laying up your treasures in heaven. You're putting something up ahead of time. It's the same thing we do today. If say we're trying to buy something, generally you try to work toward, you've got enough to at least make a down payment on it. If you have to get a loan or whatever for whatever it is you're getting, or get enough money around. As a kid, I'd like to go fishing. So what you do, if you want to go fishing, is you have to have lures, right? Well, you go around and pick up pop cans until you got the pop cans to be able to go and buy what you want to use to go fishing. So I'm going to refer to that as, kind of what we're doing today. We're trying to lay up, we're trying to gather the things here. So we're going to do what we've been told here to do to get there.
And part of it is the work versus reward aspect. If you gave me $1, that's one thing. But if you got to work for $1, everybody. I heard one illustration. You talked about the young man who wanted to inherit, his dad's business, and dad said, "Well, you better go out and earn, so much money." And he goes out there and he tells his mom, what happened. She's like, "Well, he should just give it to you." She says, "Here's the money, go give it to him." He walks in and he's like, "Dad, I earned the money, here it is." And he said, No. He says, he takes the money, he throws it in the fire, and that's like, "But I want the inheritance." They even think, and then, goes out again, and his mom says, "Well, this time wait a while, and, get yourself dirty and go in there and look like you're wore out and go in there with the money. You go in there and same thing happens, that throws the money in the fire. I said, no, I said, go out and earn it. And, again, the guy didn't have an appreciation for the money that was burnt because he didn't earn it. So the next time he goes out, he's like, I gotta really earn this. My dad means it. And then after a long period of time, he comes back with the large sum of money and says, here's the money that I really earned. And the dad take it to throw it in the fire. And his son said, no, he says, I worked really hard for that. Don't throw it in the fire. And he had the appreciation, and I think if we don't have appreciation for the church, we're not gonna work in order to appreciate the reward either.
Yeah, you gotta put something in it in order to take something out, and I think that's where that's kind of aimed at, is if we go out and work for it, we're more apt to bind to it, we're more apt to hold it.
Not that we can earn heaven either,
No,
but if we don't work for it.
so, any other comments, questions? Thank you.
Get the mic up there.